Hey guys, it's Manuel Tall and welcome back to another video. It's been a few months and the reason why is because we just came back from a trip to Portugal, so here is the vlog. Also, if you guys are interested in some of the equipment that was used in this video, I'll provide it in the link below, but the majority of this vlog was recorded on a DJI action camera and the remainder of all the B-roll footage was used with my iPhone 12. So our journey begins in Pearson International Airport in Toronto. And it was a bit of a weird situation. There was a lot of lineups and queuing with the COVID protocols. So we got to the airport 6 hours in advance. But the first leg of our journey was to Zurich, Switzerland. We have made it on the plane in one piece. It was a 3.5-hour layover, and then it was a 2.5-hour flight from Zurich to Lisbon. And everything with the exception of my carry-on being checked in went well. May 15th, 4:57 p.m. Alright, after a long haul, we have finally made it to Lisbon, and we're currently waiting for the train station that's going to be taking us to Tunis, and then finally to our destination in Lagos. It was a long day, but we made it. So the train ride was supposed to be a 2-leg train, and the first leg was supposed to be high speed to Tunis, and then the second leg was just a regular coach car to Lagos. Now, I don't know if it was because of the strike situation in Portugal with the National Railway or it was just horrible timing, but that train to Tunis just never ended up showing up, and we were sort of stranded there in the middle of nowhere in a new country we've never been in for about an hour and a half before we decided to Uber it. And got to Lagos very late at 10 p.m. but we made it after all. Our first day in Lagos was a very easy start to the day. It was on Monday, May 16th. We got up nice and early, went down to Lagos Old Town, grabbed some breakfast, and then ended up picking up the rental car that we were going to use over the next 3 days. All right, out here in Lagos, the Airbnb is right behind me. The vehicle is also behind me. It's a blue Citroen. Obviously, they don't have those in Canada, but it drives great. Today was an interesting experience. We went down to the Benagil caves, and the only way to get to this particular cave is by kayaking. It was one of my first times kayaking, and it was a double. So I had the help of Laura, who led the way, and I sort of just freeballed it at the end. Tour guides were extremely helpful. Great guys, very knowledgeable people. They were able to not only take us around and navigate us around the cliffs and the rocks, but also provide like a little background history of, you know, how the rocks were formed, some of the best beaches in Lagos, in Faro, and Albufeira, and a lot of just historical context to the kayak tour. So I would recommend it. I'll put a link to the kayak tour specifically in the description box. I highly recommend you check it out. Overall, this is the dirt path to the Airbnb. So it's a fairly new construction complex that was made. The Airbnb itself is actually quite phenomenal. It's an apartment, 2 bedrooms with 2 washrooms and 2 showers, which is great. We're actually along the beach, so the beach area, and it's a typical resort town. So a lot of expats, mainly from English-speaking countries, particularly like the UK. We've met some people from Canada and the United States, so Lagos seems to be a fairly common tourist destination. But overall, just an incredible experience. The only regrets I have about this trip is that we didn't spend enough time here in Lagos. We only scheduled 2 days because tomorrow on the Wednesday we got to leave 9 a.m. in the morning. But it is a good, you know, experience, an introductory experience to the area. I would definitely come here back in a heartbeat. It's great. The food is great. Contrary to popular belief, the drivers here in Portugal are actually not that bad, and Lagos traffic is actually very manageable. As someone who's only driven in North America, I was able to adapt to the roads quite easily, and some of the infrastructure is great. We passed by this bridge. It seems like it was over a swamp, but it was a suspension bridge, and the engineer and me, you know, immediately kicked out and said, "Oh my God, that's one of the best bridges I've ever seen." I haven't seen anything like that in Canada. We wouldn't have something made like that just because of the cost association with that. But overall, just very interesting. And this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen, because it's not common. So to the west, or to the south I should say, is a resort, And then if you look literally on the other side of the street, we have an abandoned area with cows, and these are tagged, so it's livestock that's been tagged. Somebody owns these animals, but they just roam around. Every time I'm on the run this morning with Laura, I see them and I moo at them, and they slowly turn their head towards me. So it's great, but it's so funny, just the contrast. So one of the other really cool things about this town is, and where we're staying is right across from our Airbnb, is the Lagos beach. And I'm not joking, it's literally like 5 minutes walking distance away. The waves aren't as bad as what they were in Albufeira. Very beautiful. The sand is paved every morning, so it's nice and smooth and no litter whatsoever. So up next today is we're gonna head over to Lagos Old Town. Really explore the area. We haven't gotten a chance to do that yet. Go to the local shops, local cafes, try out the local food. Really take in as much as we can. Like I said, it's a short stay, only 2 days, but I think just the one night in Old Town should give us at least a good taster or a primer for when we're back here full time. I'd love to, like I said before, I'd love to spend at least like a week here, possibly even more, because it's so easy to just relax, sit down, enjoy the sun. Speaking of the sun, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm cooked. I'm like 5 shades darker within a day. But really looking forward to this trip down to Old Town, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace. Next stop, we headed down to the south of Lagos, Ponta de Piedade, which is the rock formation, which the rock formations are about 20 meters tall. And we went around sunset time where the contrast and the sunset hitting the rocks and the waves just looked absolutely spectacular. That staircase goes right down to the water, and I don't know if you can see, there's people that are climbing the cliffs just to get a picture, and I don't know if that's a good idea, but more life to them. So update, I guess it doesn't look as dangerous when you get close to that picture. So I've made it all the way down the stairs. I would have anticipated this been like a quiet beach area, something hidden off, but it's just rocky and seems like a lot of boats go through it based on the warning signs. There. Yeah, my legs are killing too. It's a lot easier going down the stairs than up. Made it up alive. I think this time of the day to come to this rock formation is probably the best. The shadows have a nice contrast on the rocks, especially with the sun hitting it at almost sunset, about 2 hours away. Around the rocks, they have these couple of small shops and restaurants. Cute place, probably overpriced if I were to guess, but I'm just speaking of speculation right here. After that, we hopped in our car from Lagos and drove down to Sagres, and the drive there was just amazing. Just rolling hills, sunny day, no traffic, a lot of roundabouts, but we got to the old fort, and it was a very, very nice drive. Beautiful Sagres, the edge of the world in Portugal. Behind me you see some people getting ready for their swim and their, what is it again? Swimming and what? Surfing. Their surfing lessons. A very common place here in Portugal, as I just found out. But the view here is just absolutely phenomenal. The rock formations right on the beach and the fort. I'm not sure if you can see it in the back there. That's one of the oldest forts. And I'm right standing on the edge of the cliff here. I'll be careful. And the rock formation's right there. This is one of the craziest, most beautiful places I've ever been to in my life, and I haven't even been inside the fort yet. So Sagres is considered the edge of the world at one point because people in Europe actually thought it was the edge of the world.
I'm gonna do it. It'll be a photo for your blog.
Okay, sweet. I'm getting my picture taken right now for my thumbnail. So we've made it past the fort and technically on the edge of the world here, but there's a nice paved trail that leads us all the way to here, so trekking was quite easy. And for the adventurous type, there's a bunch of rocky stuff that you can maneuver around. There's a weather station behind me. I'm guessing that's still functional, and I guess it also operates as a lighthouse, but this is nothing like no place like I've been to before. And it's really, really, really nice weather. No wind at all, believe it or not. So you're not gonna believe what I found at the port. There are actually pyramids in Portugal. Well, they look like pyramids from a while, but it's actually a singular sort of structure that I'm mazing through, and it gets you to the top to get you a better view. And my voice is echoing through the walls, which is cool. It's not a better view. You're just enclosed in walls with a bunch of graffiti written all over it, but
I think we're supposed to hear sounds through this.
But underneath the grate, there's supposed to be sounds of waves coming through and coming up, but not today. So after a 2-kilometer walk around the port, we finally made it to the top. And that is the town of Sagres behind me. Overall, I think it was pretty cool. If you're in the area in the south, definitely check it out. Like I said, I've seen nothing like this before, but these forts seem to be quite common across the Iberian Peninsula, especially around the southern parts of Spain as well as Portugal. But the view is phenomenal. Very few clouds today too. One suggestion I would have is that if you are coming to this area in the fort, there's a lot of cobblestones and old tiling, so running shoes are ideal or you will have a bad day. Luckily I'm wearing them, but just a heads up. So up next we're gonna check out the old town, grab some food, maybe head down to the beach, just wet our feet a little, and then after that we're gonna be heading back to Lagos near our Airbnb and having a nice little beach day. Now we're gonna conclude with some dinner with some genuine southern Portuguese food, which I've never had before, so I'm excited for that as well. Now on the beautiful beach of Sagres, to the east of the fort, and it's just so nice. How would you rate it, Laura? 10 out of 10 if you didn't hear. It's quite loud with the wind. But this is nice. After walking 2.5 kilometers, my feet were sweaty and disgusting.
Just redo.
This is beautiful. This is beautiful. What a beach. Our next stop was Lisbon. So after spending 3 days in Lagos, we decided to go back and finish our journey off in Lisbon. And we actually decided to take an express coach bus instead of the train. After having the issue with Tunas, we just didn't want to risk it, even though we did have train tickets. The bus ride was great. We ended up taking the expressway down to downtown Lisbon. And then from there, we walked down the hilly roads of Old Lisbon to our Airbnb. The Airbnb was absolutely stunning. We had a 2-story apartment on the top floor. The living area was really cool with a chalkboard wall that was graffitied with all the visitors from around the world that had stayed at the place. We had all the amenities that a person could ask for: a TV, a dishwasher, a kitchen, a fridge. And the best part was upstairs, which was the bed area, and it was a loft. There were windows and a skylight to let in the natural light, but the absolute best part about it was the balcony that seated 2 that would overlook the street below us, and we spent many nights just sitting there and enjoying the sights and sounds of Lisbon. So later that day, we just headed down to the side alley next to Airbnb to grab a quick bite to eat and a snack, And later we went on to the Timeout Market. Now the Timeout Market is a food hall and it was opened in 2014. It's near the port of Lisbon along the water, and it's a collection of the best chefs in Portugal, and they have these food stands here, and it's like almost like a cafeteria vibe. It's loud, it's energetic, and it was just totally unique. Nothing like here in Canada. So on our first full day in Lisbon, we dedicated the entire Thursday to a trip down to Sintra. Now Sintra is actually one of the most densely populated municipalities in Portugal, but it's also home to some of the most scenic and natural landmarks and is a very popular tourist destination. We're in beautiful Sintra in the valley of the lakes, and there are individual streams and like small ponds with these great swans and baby ducklings everywhere. And with the tree in the bush, you can actually see the sunlight and the sun rays just coming in, and it's just crazy and it's so beautiful. We just passed the Ponta de Piedade, the main palace, the colorful pink and yellowish looking one. It's at the very peak of Sintra. We didn't get to go inside, but we got to see most of it from the outside, and it looked really, really beautiful. But this park around is just fantastic, and it's just so beautiful. I'll show you a lot more video footage. A lot of it will be from the B-roll, and I'll attach it to this. And I'm not sure how windy it is, if you can hear me clearly, but this is beautiful. It was a 50-minute train ride from downtown Lisbon. Very straightforward, very easy to get to. And we took an Uber because walking up to the palace would have taken over an hour and 30 minutes. And it's a very steep climb. So I do recommend you guys take an Uber if you ever decide to come to Sintra. Overall, it's absolutely phenomenal and beautiful. And I'll show you guys some more video as the tour continues. The park in Sintra had some other cool things like a greenhouse and stables that are maintained to this day and actually housed with horses. And a really cool thing is there was a path that was off the main trail, and you had to go in between two boulders, and once you crouched through these boulders, you got this amazing view of the Peña Palace, and it got some great shots and some great video footage. And also check out this drone footage. Our last main stop in Sintra was the Moorish Castle. This was built in the 8th century, and what's surprising is the amazing views from this fort and castle, and how little people actually go to this castle compared to Peña Palace. It seems to be on an off route, so you would pass by the Peña Palace first, but if I were you and if anyone's traveling to Sintra, I would prioritize this over the palace just because of the views, and just because how weird and cool the structure is, and having something that's lasted over 1300 years is actually pretty cool. And then we proceeded to walk down from the peak of Sintra to the main square, and the walk down was definitely much easier and quite scenic than walking up. The following day we headed over to Benfica Stadium, also known as the Estadio de Luz. It is the main stadium for Benfica FC and also serves as a multi-purpose stadium for other sports events and concerts in Lisbon. We took the subway from our Airbnb or near it, and it goes directly to the stadium. It was a very hot day, but it was a perfect day for a stadium tour. We're now in the Benfica Stadium. We're currently on a tour, but this is the stadium where the 2020 Champions League was hosted between Manchester City and Chelsea, which Manchester City obviously lost. But the stadium's beautiful, actually. 65,000 people, and the seats are leather. We're now pitchside on the stadium. We're not allowed to touch on or step on the grass, but this is where the players, I guess this is the opposition team. overall, it's a great stadium. Sorry, 5-star rated. Like I said, Champions League hosts, also hosted the 2004 European finals. But this is just incredible. I wish Toronto FC or somewhere in Canada we had something like this. I know Vancouver is similar, but the stadium is phenomenal. On the way to the museum, we were able to see a set of 2 mascots for the soccer club. They're actually 2 bald eagles, and actually wild how big these birds are in person. The significance of the bald eagle is that it can be seen on the crest on the team's soccer badge. And the museum was actually surprising, as it wasn't only memorabilia for soccer, but also had trophies and awards for every other sport under the Benfica sports umbrella. We're now in the Benfica Museum, and it's kind of cool museum because it captures everything about Benfica, including all the sports. So it's not just football, it's hockey, cycling, tennis, and a bunch of other things. But the cool thing is it's 3 stories, and on the second story, you see the cultural significance of the sport. Very, very cool. And in the final stage and floor, there's these there's a penalty shootout where you have to beat the keeper, which is kind of cool. And after this, it has access directly to the Superstore, where you can purchase Benfica gear. Obviously, every stadium I visit, I purchase a scarf. I don't intend to stop doing that. But overall, this is probably one of the most comprehensive museums that I've been to, and I love it. And I recommend that if you do come to Benfica and check out the stadium, that you do the stadium tour as well. Combine it, and it's an absolutely great experience. Learn a lot. The following Saturday, we decided to take a morning and afternoon trip to the town of Cascais. It's a town that's located about 50 minutes to the west of Lisbon, and one of the best ways to get there is actually by train, and there was a train that left right by our Airbnb. It's a pretty cool area. The town has a coastal and a port vibe to it, and curiously, it was used by the nobles, both Portuguese and the UK, as a popular vacation resort for them during the months of September and August, just because of the weather. And what we decided to do was just, hopped around, walked around the old town, and we decided to go one of the smaller beaches and just dip our toes and, really explore the city. It was a kind of an overcast day, wasn't the best, weather, but it was still nice and hot, and we got to see the waves, and it was beautiful. Sounds good.
Mate, I can still find stuff.
Go for it. Later that night, we headed down to the port for an Airbnb experience, which was a sailboat tour through the river in Lisbon. We started off in the Sintra Marina port and ventured down the Tagus River in Lisbon. A really cool thing about Lisbon is that they have an identical statue of the Christ the Redeemer, and it was built by the Brazilians in the early 1950s, and it's actually called Almada, which the English translation is being Christ the King. It was built as a reminder to the horrors of World War II, and what's really interesting, and I didn't know this until we had this sailboat tour, was that Portugal actually remained neutral and was not actually a belligerent in the war. The craziest part of the tour was finding out the bridge in Lisbon, known as the April 25th Bridge, was actually constructed by the same company that built the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. I had joked about it being similar, but I was actually shocked when I found out that the blueprints and schematics were almost identical. The bridge was renamed to April 25th to signify the Revolution of Independence that actually occurred on April 25th in 1974 when the dictatorship was overthrown. Our next landmark on the boat tour was the Monument of Discoverers. The monument was built in the early 60s and is 52 meters high. The eastern and western profiles of the structure actually contain statues of the 33 significant figures that were monumental to the Portuguese exploration during the colonial era. What's really cool is at the top of the structure, if you look down, you can see a compass and a world map that highlights all the places that Portugal had traveled to and conquered during its expeditions in the 15th and 16th century. The last landmark on the trip was the Commerce Square located in the heart of Lisbon. It's quite literally a square with the dimensions being exactly 175 meters by 175. This was reconstructed after the major earthquake in 1755, and in the vicinity you have a lot of local shops, restaurants, and businesses. On our final day in Lisbon, we traveled down to the Church of Sao Vicente. The monastery was created in 1147 and was dedicated to the patron saint of Vicente of Saragossa. The monastery was beautiful, and with incredible artwork and paintings scattered across the walls, it was a sight to see. Many locals actually had told us that the monastery was a better value for those interested in ceramic tiles than the actual ceramic tile museum dedicated in Alfama. The last major tourist attraction was the St. George Castle. The castle had the best view of Lisbon city center and the Tagus River. The castle actually dates back before Christ, approximately 8 centuries before Christ was born, and it's surprising how the thing still stands to the day. Another random thing that we found is that there's a number of peacocks that just roam around. Quite random, I'm not sure why they are, but they were just there and pretty cool. Finally, after a full week of travel in Portugal, it was time to go back to Canada. Our first flight was in Frankfurt, Germany, where we had a 2-hour layover. Then we all hopped on a 747, packed like sardines, and flew back to Toronto. Overall, this was just such an amazing trip, and honestly, if I could go back to Portugal right now, we would. If we were to go back, honestly, we'd go check out the islands, Madeira and the Azores, and then check out the city of Porto, just for, I believe it has similar vibes like Lisbon, but a lot more architecture, and definitely it's known for its wine. Other than that, I'm going to close this out by showing a bunch of great pictures that Laura took on our trip. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.